I want to hear about your outdoor adventures
Outdoor
and
adventures.
such.
It's that time of year. It's the summertime. I'm actually just gearing up to go on a trip. I'm lucky enough to have an uncle that owns a whole bunch of land in northern Alberta, and he owns a ranch up there. And we usually go out there, my family and I, at least once every month or two in the summer, and it's so much fun. But yeah, it just made me that started getting me thinking about just what kind of adventures people have had over the summers, and if anyone has any crazy stories. I know the craziest hike that I've ever been on for sure was my cousin took me on a hike once that was like, he's a bit more of a hardcore hiker than I am, but he thought this was going to be way easier than it was. And it was like we were in the mountains for 2 nights in like a shared communal cabin. And it ended up being a 6-hour hike uphill. And we had to bring in everything we had, like all our food, sleeping bags and pillows and all that stuff on our backs. And it was just, as soon as we got out of the car and started walking up the mountain, it started raining and did not stop. I kid you not, until we got back in the car 2 days later. It rained the entire time we were there, and the mosquitoes were worse than I've ever seen any in my life. So it was just hell. It was so awful. I mean, it was cool being in the mountains for sure. It was like the most remote place I've ever been for sure. But man, that was such a brutal hike. My cousin felt so bad that he took me on that.
What was the reward? Like, is it known for having like a great view at the top essentially, or is it just a hike?
No, it was just like, it was a long hike. And then there was like a cabin, like a big cabin in the middle of nowhere. And you were supposed to kind of make that like your base of operations. And then you'd go from there and like explore the mountains. So there wasn't like an end point really. There was a bunch of different peaks we could have climbed and stuff. And we did a couple. Yeah. But it was just so hellish. That was the worst for sure.
Yeah, that's actually sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say that's actually what I was going to touch on is Amy, my girlfriend, she is in Yoho National Park in the middle of nowhere somewhere. One of her friends is one of these, like Chris, you said, like one of these crazy deep woods backpackers who just like go off in the middle of nowhere and risk being eaten by bears, whatever. So she won the chance to stay at this one of these isolated cabins, and she could invite a bunch of people with her who wanted to try it out as well. So she invited Amy and a few other people, and so they went on Sunday, and they're there until Wednesday. And this is I realized this is the first time in we've been together about 15 years. This is the first time I've never been able to have communication with her. Like I can't even text her, can't do nothing, because she's truly. They have one of those satellite phones, so if something really bad happened, they could, fire that up and let people know. But it's the weirdest thing to go all of a sudden be going like a few days where you can't. And she got all the stuff. She had a backpack on her front, backpack on her back, and packs all over her. And she looked just like the guy from Death Stranding, which is what I'm playing right now. And it was. I mean, that's hardcore. They all have bear spray and all sorts of stuff to protect them, and it's just sort of like, well, I have to hope on Wednesday, sometime on Wednesday, tomorrow, that I get a text message from her. She comes out of the woods. I guess it's very strange.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's a weird hobby.
It's weird. It was really crazy. Like there was no running water there, for example. All the water,
no power. No
yeah,
water,
exactly. Nothing. All the water. There was like a big tank that you'd go down to the lake and take water from the lake and put it in the tank, and it would purify the water, and everyone shared that water. And just coming back was so trippy to like, I remember coming back and we stopped in a Boston Pizza on the way back, and just like hot cooked food and like running water with like and it could be hot. Like that it was mind blowing. It really makes you appreciate that stuff for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can do
I've never done any extreme hiking like that. I like the imagery of the giant backpack. It looks cool in my mind. You would feel like a true explorer. I think it'd be kind of cool to experience at least once. But actually doing it, I'm watching like this motorcycle documentary series right now called Long Way Home. It's like Ewan McGregor and his friend travel around, and seeing them go on adventures always looks awesome. But then when you actually do it, it's not like setting up. They make setting up a tent look fun, but actually doing that is probably the worst thing ever. But I like the idea of hiking rather than actually hiking. I think overall, but
For sure. Like I'm glad I did it in the end. It is like it makes it's a fun memory, but yeah, it was at the time it was absolute hell. Like somebody had a full breakdown in that cabin and had to be escorted out.
escort.
Like they were like, we have to leave now because she's freaking out. It was
Yeah, her friend said the last time they did it, they took up 4 like sort of experienced hikers with them, but the hike ended up being a lot more difficult than they thought. And there's a section where there's a lot of exposure, so you could, if a strong wind came by, you would be thrown off a cliff or something. And one of the hikers that was with them just cried the entire time. She just never stopped crying the whole hike. I'm like, that's just not fun. That's not fun to me. Anyways, but I mean, some people like it, I guess. But man, I don't know. Not for me.
No, it's true. At some point on the way up, I actually just told them to go without me, and I'll meet them at the top because I was stopping every 5 minutes at that point. I was in worse shape than I am now too, and I was just like, I'm just a hindrance to this group for sure. Just go on without me, and I will catch up.
Because you actually do like nature and
I do.
and and hikes, and I remember when you visited Vancouver forever ago. Yeah, you were. Where did you go again? Do you remember where you went?
I just walked all over Vancouver.
Yeah, I thought you went on. So you did go on some kind of hike, mountain trail. I think.
Oh yeah, I did like
forget.
Grouse Mountain, and
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, I think pretty much all I did was hike. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Yeah. That was like, there was a lot of positive about that trip. It was just like relentless. The rain and the mosquitoes and just like roughing it the whole time. It was just too much. Yeah, it was just too much that time.
Yeah, my outdoor adventures have definitely shifted from the great outdoors to urban hiking. Like whenever I'll travel, like, put on 35,000 steps a day, just getting lost in a new city.
Yeah, that's the best.
But haven't been on like a hardcore like mountain hike in a long time. The last real hike I think I went on was actually in Croatia, at this place called Plitvice National Park, which is this crazy gorgeous sort of series of like stepped foothills and mountains with just like hundreds of waterfalls. But the problem was getting there was a bus ride, and then they wouldn't sell a return ticket at the bus depot in Zagreb, in Croatia. So we just got this one-way bus ticket out into the middle of nowhere in the countryside. It was shoulder season, so all of the restaurants, hotels, and there's like resorts at this national park, but they were all like closed. The doors weren't locked. It was just off season. They weren't open. So we wandered through these like really weird, really beautiful hotels surrounded by waterfalls, and the like the custodial staff looked at us really funny, and
you could just walk around inside.
Yeah, it was really bizarre. There was like, but there was nobody there except for people like vacuuming. There's no one at the front desk. There are no restaurants open. So we spent the day hiking through these gorgeous waterfall trails, and then it was like, well, we have to get back to the hostel. So we but there's nowhere to buy a bus ticket. So we went and stood at the bus stop, which essentially looked like a doghouse on the side of the road. And we were there for like 3 hours. No buses came by. And we're just like, how the hell are we going to get back to the city? And yeah, it was about 3.5 hours into that wait. This minivan pulls up, and it's got like different colored quarter panels. And this really odd looking fellow gets out of the van and comes around to us and is like, do you need a ride? And we're like, oh, yes, we do.
I've seen this movie before.
I've seen this movie before. And he's like, okay, I can give you a ride, but I need to find 4 more people, and I'll charge you this much, but I need 4 people to pay this much to make it worth my time for like the 2-hour drive back to the city. So he's like, just wait here. So we waited for like another hour and a half. And finally he comes back around and he's like, okay, I found, 4 more people that are also stranded like you. And they're currently on the other side of the park in this like little cafe that's, I guess, the only open business in the area. And he's like, okay, well, get on in. You have to come in through the driver's side door because none of the other doors worked. And you crawl in there. And we're like, all right, here we go. Drive all the way around the perimeter of this national park to this little cafe where we picked up these 2 folks who were backpacking as well. They're from Korea, and then 2 actors from Calgary, of all places. Oh, wow. And we're all, well, what's the other option here? So yeah, we drove, I think it was about 2-hour drive back to the city. And, this fellow was just telling us stories about his time in the Civil War. And as we drove through the Croatian countryside where there's like rusted out, like tanks and whatnot, just sitting in the woods from, some pretty dark chapters in their history. And then we almost hit a police officer in a traffic circle because he wasn't used to driving in the city, apparently. And it was the wildest traffic circle. It was like 6 or 7 lanes, no lights. But we made it back. And that's why I don't go hiking in the outdoors anymore.
Yeah, there's so many moments during that I would have been, I'm done with this. Yeah. Even the fact that he went to like get 4 more people and then came back without the 4 people, it seems like it would have made more sense to bring them to you. I don't know, it's really weird.
What a job though, just driving up to people who look stranded and saying, can I drive you anywhere? Wow.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That reminded me of being in Switzerland. I had kind of a similar thing happen where I was always late to everything because I would at that time, I was not a morning person at all, and I would get up really late. And so I was just always the last person to do anything. And actually, I had just done this really, it was really cool, but it was kind of creepy because I was the only one there, but it was like these ice caverns in a mountain where it was like the whole, like the floor and the walls and the ceiling were all ice, and there was just one steel bar for you to hold on to. But that was just super creepy because I was the only one in there. I was like wandering through these ice caverns by myself. But because of that, I was late coming back, and I ended up missing the last train down to my village that I was staying in. And I asked the guy, what could I do? And he said, well, there's a hotel right there. You can stay there. Or do you have a light? And I said, yes. He said, well, because it was nearing the end of the day. And he said, it's a 2-hour walk down that path right there back to your village. You can take that. And I was like, all right, that's what I'm going to do. And so that was kind of a crazy walk. It was creepy walking through the mountains by myself in the dark, but I didn't feel that scared until I realized I had taken a wrong turn somewhere. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? And I started like really freaking out, but I ended up just walking back far enough and finding the sign that said this way. And I did make it in the end, but that was freaky.
That kind of reminds me when I was in the first time I ever traveled outside Canada. I went to Scotland, and or sorry, North America. Went to Scotland, and I met a bunch of expats over there who I went out with, and we had a bunch of drinks during the day. And they eventually wanted to go to a club or something, and I just didn't feel like doing that, so I left them. But we left the bar, and I had drank way more than I should have. I didn't realize it, but I drank way more, and I walked out of the city and into the wilderness. And I remember people telling me that like there's a great hike. You can reach Arthur's Seat, which is like a really great view of the city. Whenever you hike up this mountain or whatever. And so I did it. I was like, okay, I saw a sign for Arthur's Seat, and I'm going, and I made it to the top. And then I realized, oh no, sorry, I made pretty much to the top. And then the sun was going down, and it went down really fast, and it was suddenly pitch black, and I couldn't see anything. There's no lights out there, no nothing, and I could hear animals like howling and rustling in the woods. And that was like what you said, Chris. Like there's a moment where you suddenly feel so helpless, and I looked up to the sky because I realized that no one knows I'm here. Like nobody, my family doesn't know I'm here. My friends, I'm all alone. If I die tonight, no one will know that I die for several days probably, right? So I'm freaking out. Now, fast forward a little bit, I get my composure back. I make it out. It's a scary night. I make it home make it back to the hostel. I go to bed. Fast forward a number of years when Amy and I we went off to Europe for a year and a half, whatever. And Scotland's our first stop because I loved it. I wanted to show it to her. And I've told this story to her a million times. You know, she's like, I got to see this place where you wandered off to. So we go, and I wandered off, or I follow the path down to the place where I wandered, and it's in the city. It's not even outside the city. It's just a park. And I was so drunk that I thought that I was in the wilderness, and I wasn't at all. There was no danger. There was no harm. It's like a really well-traveled touristy spot. So it's not even. So, anyways, the whole thing was like
painting in the bathroom or something.
the whole story was like suddenly completely deflated because it was just like I was just wandering. It was like I went to like Horlack Park here in Edmonton and thought I was like really deep woods backpacking, but
things look different.
I've told because you told me that story, the first one, and then I've told people that story since then, but I've never heard this follow up until now. So I've still been spreading this lore that you've got lost in the wilderness in Scotland.